In this sneak peek, we hear from the Jerry Maguire of retail, Mr. Caleb Arter, owner of Blue7. In this segment, he's sharing about how relationship is the foundation in which Blue7 is built upon. Enjoy.
The best example I have, so when we were first married, my wife really wanted a Mini Cooper. And so we bought her a Mini Cooper. She drove it for a few years. And then when she got pregnant, we decided that we had to get rid of the Mini Cooper because we couldn't really get inside it and access a car seat very easily. So we took the double doors in the front of the store, opened them up. We drove the Mini Cooper right into the store and right to the very middle of the store. And we polished it up and we wrote "free pair of jeans with purchase" on the window and put it for sale. And so sure enough, a good customer came along and was like, you know what, my daughter's turning 16. I'm going to buy this car for her. And she did. And then we had a hard time getting it out the door, and we had to end up picking it up and moving it just to get it straight out the door. But we got it. And about 2 weeks later, she came back and said, you know what, I totally forgot to get my free pair of jeans. But those are the kind of things that you can do when you're a small business and you're the business owner that hopefully we try to, one of the things that we try really hard to do is to always pursue a creative avenue to solve any problem. And so, honestly, whether I sold the car or not didn't really matter. We just want people to, every time they come in the store, to see something different or experience something different. I mean, you're not going to go into a retail store very often and see a car sitting right in the middle that is also for sale, that's incorporated into, the aesthetics or the merchandising of the products. And so from the very beginning, I worked at Blue7 for a couple years when they first opened it. And then in 2006, they gave us the opportunity. They owner financed it. We purchased it from them, just paid them out of the business. And that's a whole nother story on its own. But I feel really grateful to Rusty and Regan Nix, who were the previous owners, and just giving us that opportunity. But one thing I learned from them was just if something doesn't work, you figure out a way to make it work. And so we didn't have a lot of money for fixtures and things like that. And so, I can honestly remember pulling things out of the dumpster and changing them up and turning them into fixtures and, having product that didn't sell and saying, well, we can just give it away or sell it for super inexpensive, or we can, turn it around and turn it into something else that someone actually does want or need. And time and time again, we've been able to do that. And obviously trends change over the years, but we feel that being creative is such an important part of retail. And it's also the first step into developing relationships with people. So they come for the experience, and they come for maybe a creative mix of products that we carry. And I love it when grandparents come in with their grandkids and they both find something to buy that they like. And that happens all the time. And that makes me way more happy than if we were doing a much better business, but only for a certain segment of person, because we feel that relationships are the foundation of life. And it's not just relationships with your family or maybe the people at your church or the people that you exercise with, but also relationships with the community as a whole. People that maybe you don't know, but to continue to develop those relationships with your customers. So the more types of people we get into our store, then the more we get to build on that foundation of relationships. And, I don't think that's really important to a lot of retailers. And I think it is really important to some retailers. So I'm not saying no one cares about relationships, but at the end of the day, if we're faced with, a dilemma to pour into someone in a relational way or to make some extra money, we're going to choose the relational way. By God's grace, we've been able to do both. But at the end of the day, if we cannot have it be a relational business, then we would not be in business, because that's just so important to me. So the creative approach and the emphasis on relationships, I think, are what makes us different than, a lot of other retailers. I think that I could tell you a thousand stories about that relational approach. But one of my favorites, I shared it with you guys during the Cultivate meeting last week. But one of my favorites is, a story about a employee that I currently have now. So I have amazing employees, and one of them has been with me for 13 years, and then I think one for 5 or 6 years, and then one for 4 or 5 years. And so those are my 3 main employees. Oh, and I have a girl that's part-time now that's been with me for about 8 years. And one of my employees that's with me now, when he first started working here, the whole reason I hired him was not because he had any retail experience at all, but because he really cared about this relational aspect of life. And I could see that. So that's what I look for when I try to hire people. I'm like, if you care about people and focus on relationships, I can teach you the rest. And, pretty early on when he started working here, there was a girl that came in, was looking for a product for her wedding. She found the perfect shoes. And just at the end of the day, she was just like, I can't afford the shoes. She was overwhelmed, stressed. Her wedding was coming up, and she ended up kind of having a mini breakdown in the store and said, can you just hold them for me? And then she left. And shortly after that, she called the store and said, actually, can you just put those shoes back? I'm not going to be able to get those. And Keaton was the guy that was helping her. And Keaton was just like, this can't happen. Like, this girl needs these shoes. And so he called and kind of messaged everyone that worked at the store. There were probably 20 of us at the time, and said, this is the situation. Can anyone pitch in and let's buy these shoes from her, or buy these shoes for her? And so, within 10 minutes, the shoes were paid for, and we got to call her and say, come get your shoes for your wedding. It's one less thing that you have to think about. And, that stuff is good for business, but it's not the motivation for us. The motivation is the relationship itself. And I think if we could all approach what we do for a living, and if we could approach a simple trip to the grocery store, if we could approach life in a way that values people like that, then it would be a much better place to live. The world would be much better off. And so I think we all have to see and recognize and practice that in our own realm. But it's just so important. And hopefully that is what sets us apart. Now, not everyone's going to get that experience when they come in the store. We have a lot of customers, and not everyone has a great experience. I mean, we have negative experiences too, but I think it's how we approach those and how we deal with those that really says, hey, this is the most important thing to me. I'm sorry, we made a mistake. Admit when we fall short, and hope that we can earn that customer back. But even if we don't, we know that we owned up to it. We're going to do better in the future. And I think that's hopefully what sets us apart. So.
Thank you for joining us for a sneak peek into the Cultivate OKC podcast. To catch the full episode and many more, go to cultivate.city. We believe that no city can become great unless everyone thrives, not just the privileged or the opportunistic or the connected or credentialed. We believe entrepreneurs and their ventures have an outsized impact on flipping the script. Our hope is that Oklahoma City will become famous for an atmosphere of flourishing. We believe a courageous, connective movement of entrepreneurs leading redemptive ventures will play an outsized role in that story, and we exist to nurture and multiply that movement. Will you join us?